invite Andrew from Futurpreneur to talk about common mistakes for startups. Andrew.
Thank you very much. If I don't use the mic, can everyone hear me? Yeah. Perfect. So thank you very much. So my name is Andrew. I'm a business development manager with Futurpreneur here in Manitoba. So if you have any questions about some of the resources that we offer for entrepreneurs, feel free to reach out to me. So today my talk will be about mistakes to avoid when starting a business. So here we're going to give you some tips, some access to resources to really help you get started with any business. So before we get started, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. So as a national organization, Futurpreneur honors and acknowledges the traditional and ancestral territories of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples across the country. We recognize the diversity of Indigenous peoples and communities coast to coast, including over 600 Native communities. First, 4 Inuit Nunavut regions comprised of 53 Inuit communities, Métis nations, settlements, and regions, as well as treaties 1 to 11, 25 modern treaties, and all unceded territories. And we respect the historic and current relationship Indigenous peoples have to the land on which we reside. And we are committed to collaborating as well as establishing respectful relationships with Indigenous peoples by striving to practice reconciliation in our everyday lives, communities, and workplaces. We encourage you to take part in learning the local Indigenous histories of the land in which we reside. So here's an example of what the entrepreneurial continuum looks like. So we start with sort of the idea stage where we're exploring, assuming, and testing our product before we bring it to market. From there, we go to the development stage where we're looking for suppliers, contacts, really getting that inventory ready for when we want to start our business. And then as you're going for that pre-launch, you want to be ready for financing, working on your business plan to have a well, clear, and thought-out approach to how you want to deliver your business, find your customers, as well as how you want to scale your business downstream. And of course, we have the survival stage. As we know, with any business, the first few months are typically a little bit more challenging. So we're in the survival mode, making sure that we have the cash flow, the resources to be sustainable until we can build a community around our business. And then in the sustaining process, we're looking at making a profit, enough to make our own living, expand, hire that first employee, for example, to really help your business grow. And lastly, we have the thriving component, which is expanding and growing your business. So just by show of hands, as people that want to start a business or have started a business, who felt anxiety when they first started, doubt, or continues to feel that? So hopefully today I'll be able to give you some resources and tips on how to sort of reduce that anxiety. And like Don said, when you're starting a business, there are risks. Hopefully you're able to manage that risk, make calculated decisions to minimize that risk to yourself, and also to have that better outcome for yourself as an entrepreneur. So there's many types of different risks that we have as entrepreneurs. Founder's risk. If I have multiple partners in the organization, will we work well together? Market risk. Will my clients like the product that I'm offering or the service that I'm offering? Competitive risks. Who are my competitors in the field? Am I going to be clashing with the business? Am I offering something different? You really want to be very sure about what you're offering as you proceed. Sales risk. How do I sell a product, or what do we sell as a product? Will the market like it? Do I have to go back and do some R&D to figure out what works? If you're in the fashion business, for example, are my colors, are my products the latest trend? Will my customers like that? So hopefully I can give you a little bit of a landscape to that today. So here are some 5 common startup mistakes and some tips on how to overcome them. So we have starting a business alone, not having a business plan, lacking the ability to pivot, thinking too small, or just focusing on a niche market, as well as handling money incorrectly. So in Manitoba, we have a rich infrastructure, and we have some community partners here today that actually offer you diverse services to help you get started as an entrepreneur. So it's great to always have a support system when getting started, whether it's a mentor, a partner, to really help you navigate that ecosystem, share some of that workload, as well as to help you build your business. So in Manitoba, we're fortunate enough to have incubators and accelerators like North Forge Technology Exchange and their sister cohorts such as North Forge East as well as North Forge North. We have the Women's Enterprise Center, which helps entrepreneurial women to get started with their business. We have the World Trade Center here today offering their services in terms of secondary market research, resources, and workshops to help entrepreneurs get off the ground. And we also have Farm Credit Canada as well as Startup TNT for those that are in the tech field to help get started as well. So when thinking about starting a business alone, depending on the type of business that you're getting into, not having a business partner or partners can be detrimental to your business. It sort of shows the investors or the banks that there's no interest in your product or you don't have the right skill set to get your product off the ground or your business off the ground. So sometimes having a partner is vital to help you succeed. And so you can go to some of these communities to really help find those partners and to get the support system to get started. Now, the other part of basic common mistake is not having a business plan. So your business plan really is a living document that changes with your business. So you really want to think about sort of a clear-cut and methodical process of building your company. So whether it's the marketing component, how are you going to market your company? How are you going to market your products to your customers? So you want to provide really clear assumptions, forecasts, and scenarios. For example, if I'm having a good year, what would that look like? A neutral year, what would that look like? And a bad year, what would that look like? And having these plans and mitigation strategies built into your business plan is very useful to navigate some of the trials and tribulations you might face downstream. Now, one of our entrepreneurs in residence, Chad Friley, says that it's common for people to really try to convince the lender that they're going to make a lot of money, that this can actually have an adverse effect. So from a lender's point of view, it shows that you haven't really thought out what is going to happen to your business and that you're being too optimistic. You always want to be cautiously optimistic and have these clear assumptions of what a conservative outlook on your business will look like in the first few years so that you can show that the lenders will have confidence in your ability to really predict and to navigate how your business will grow as it starts. So some of you might be sort of familiar with how to prepare a business plan. So we have sort of the more basic validation map, which breaks it down into sort of the product and service, best customer, value proposition, as well as your credibility as an entrepreneur. You might have even come across the business model canvas, which really goes a little bit more in depth into sort of thinking about all the different components of your business. And actually on the car ride in with my colleagues from Futurpreneur, we had a very nice discussion sort of about what analogies we could use to describe the business canvas. So for those of you that are in sort of familiar with a musical production or a theater production, if you were to take that business model canvas and just cut it right in half, that's sort of the curtain. So on the right-hand side, you're looking at sort of the customer relationships, the customer segments, the channels. This is sort of like looking at the front side, the actual production, so what the customers will see. On the left-hand side, you're looking at sort of key partners, activities, resources that's available. That's more on the back-end stuff. The stuff that I do as an entrepreneur to prepare for the production itself. So why do we write a business plan? Really, it's an idea of methodically going through and iteratively looking at your business, formalizing your idea, and really streamlining the business down to the most minute details. So think of it as having a firm grasp of your known unknowns. This is extremely important because if you struggle to answer these questions when you're looking for financing, partnership, investors, that can sort of be detrimental to their confidence in you as a business owner. So it's better to have a plan and not use it than to have no plan when you need it. Thinking too small. So as many business owners, our businesses are born from problems that we face in our everyday lives, or even opportunities that we see when we're driving around town, thinking about it, talking with friends. And Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, he had two great thoughts about sort of starting small, as well as keeping it within a niche. So choosing a small and obscure niche in the hope of avoiding competition is detrimental to your success as a business. If your business is good, or if there's an opportunity, you're always going to have competitors, and you may as well have, acknowledge that. So here are some examples. So Skip the Dishes started in 2012, and this was actually a company that came through Saskatchewan, and then eventually through Manitoba, and they launched across Canada as well as many other countries. In 2013, DoorDash came along as a food delivery service as a competitor to Skip the Dishes. Now this was based on the US, but clearly you can see that if there is an opportunity, people are going to jump onto the opportunity and really create some competition. And then I believe in 2014, Uber pivoted their program and launched Uber Eats. So this is an example of sort of the life cycle of businesses and how they're able to pivot, but starting in a very niche field. So Skip the Dishes and DoorDash focus on food delivery, but eventually they started to add other businesses as they grew, such as offering that marketing campaign. Buy our products, get points, redeem them for services, or even a subscription model where if I pay X amount of dollars, I have free delivery for the year. Uber is a great example as well, is taking their rideshare service and switching that and offering that food delivery service to sort of build upon that business. But what's common about all three of these successful businesses is that they started niche and then they grew out from there. Two other examples I can provide are Toys R Us. We're all familiar with buying toys for your kids, for family. And one of the sort of sad stories about that is that they had an opportunity to jump into the e-commerce game early, but they avoided that. So they were very focused on their brick and mortar stores and not being able to pivot into the online service to service more individuals. Polaroid was also very similar. They focused on their instant film business and dedicated a very small amount of money to their R&D service. So one of their downfalls was trying to perfect their product and service before launching, and so they actually missed out on the digital camera business, and so they lost out some of their business as well. So one of the quotes from Steve Jobs is, "Innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not as a threat." So really take advantage of being aware of what's changing, what's around you. So having that business plan ready to go and updating it as your business changes, as you get more information about how the market is going, is vital to helping a long-established business. And Don touched upon sort of how he was able to pivot, expand his business, look for different opportunities, was because he was open to the opportunity of growing the business and looking for chances to really help build that community. So when you're first starting your business, when you start writing your business plan, your aim really is feasibility. How quickly can I make that first sale, and how quickly can it build a community around my business or my product? So what we recommend to do is just go niche to start. As a business owner, you obviously found an opportunity or a problem you want to solve. That is your target market. After you sort of establish a community, build some momentum around that, then you can start looking at expanding, adding new products, talking to your customers to figure out what exactly, what direction you should go. So Troy Angus is one of the entrepreneurs that came through the Futurpreneur program, and he's based in Deloraine. Troy owns the Den Authentic Barnwood, which basically takes, excuse me, he goes on and he reclaims barnwood, reuses it, repurposes it to make furniture, to make accent pieces, and he actually created an entire community around that by having DIY videos, YouTube videos to help promote the brand, and so he's built a very successful business around that. Handling money incorrectly. So oftentimes when we're looking at raising money, we have this idea of, I only need enough money to last 3 months. I know my business is going to grow at that point. So keep in mind that when you're raising money is that you typically want to have 3 to 6 months of reserve finances when you start. So that gives you a little bit of runway to look for other opportunities to get financing, to build your business out, and to grow. Sorry, pardon me. Raising and spending too much. So it's exciting to have money, it's exciting to build a business, to share with your family and friends, hey look, great service. But sometimes you might be spending money on the wrong priorities, spending too much on ads, too much on branding, even launch parties. Let's have a great celebration and bring everyone together, but that money can be better off spent elsewhere for your business to grow. So in some cases, if you're in the restaurant business, for example, you might have things like a soft launch, where you bring in your friends and family, showcase what the food that you have to offer, get some feedback from your potential customers, and then iterate your product that way. So here's an example of sort of the cost of change chart. So as you're starting a business, once you've identified the product, as you're doing the R&D, and then you deliver, and then you sort of close it out or you launch it, you can see that the cost of change and the ease of change to making changes to your product is opposite. So the further along in your process, whether you've launched it already, making major changes will be very, very inefficient in terms of cost. It also makes it very hard for you to make that change. So when you're doing your business plan, when you're building your product, really give it some thought, get some customer feedback before you move on with that. That way, you're able to take all of this into account as you're building. So, I actually had a client come through. They wanted to brand a bag. So they went to China and they got a bunch of hockey bags made. And they didn't do their due diligence. What ended up happening was, once the shipment came to Canada, because they're made from plastic, there was an overwhelming smell of plastic in the bags. They tried to store it in the facility, let it air out for several months. Didn't help. At the end of the day, they had to throw out all the bags and order new ones because due diligence wasn't done. So this was an example of sort of, the cost of change chart. Was they didn't do their due diligence. They ordered a product that was defective without talking to the suppliers. At the end of the day, they wasted, what, $10,000 to bring in the product. Now they have to put another $10K to get new product in that meets the standards. So just really keep in mind when you're building that business plan is to understand all these different factors that could affect your business, your product, and really take in consideration of what you need to do and be as clear as possible and as detailed as possible when going through this process. So like our community partners, Futurpreneur offers business plan help and cash flow templates for entrepreneurs that want to start. Our community partners offers workshops and programs that you can access as well to really help you get started. So Manitoba has a very close-knit ecosystem built upon helping entrepreneurs succeed. I'd like to touch upon sort of some components of a business plan to help you get started. So I'll be talking a little bit about market research, SWOT analysis, and how to have sort of these SMART goals, which are very specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based objectives to help you succeed as you're going through each step of your business plan. And also to have clear assumptions when going through this. So when you're going through the product or service, this is from the validation map. You want to be simple, clear, and specific about your business. For example, if I'm going to launch an online women's athletic clothing store, that's my sort of business. I want to be able to sort of list some of the categories of offerings that I'm going to sell. For example, hiking pants, sweatshirts. Have examples of what colors you want to present and styles to help you really understand exactly where the trend is going, what you have to offer. So when you're doing your product and service, you really want to understand your prices. So by doing some research on your competitors, talking to suppliers, and understanding sort of your margin for revenue, you can also help sort of determine what goes into your business plan. So for example, if I look at competitors, I might go to Sports Check, for example, my local store, really take into account similar styles, different styles, quality of the clothing that they're offering, so that I can determine my own price point for my business plan. And again, you don't want to start too broad and offer 100 different pieces of clothing or different types of clothing. Pick a niche and start there. Slowly grow as your brand grows as well. When you're doing your SWOT analysis, you want to look at sort of your competitors as well as your own strengths. So what do you do well, and what do your competitors do well? So think about it as, what do I aspire to be because this competitor is very successful in this area? If they have awesome customer service, let's say, if I call them within 5 minutes, you get a reply, that's the type of service you want to aim for, write it in. Weakness. Where are you weak in, or where can your competitors improve? For example, if I'm starting let's say a consulting business, and my competitors are very, very slow to respond, I'm going to pitch that customer service as a weakness to my competitors, because that's where I'm going to target for my strength. For yourself, let's say if you're have a lot of inventory. Because of COVID, supply chains have been affected. So you can write down, one of the weaknesses, COVID affects my supply chain, therefore I don't get enough inventory. So what that triggers you to do is to plan ahead and say, well, normally I have a 2-week lead time to get my product in. Because of COVID, I might say, well, let's get that a month and a half, 4 weeks ahead of time, so that I know for a fact that when I need it, I'll have that product ready. Opportunities. So this builds upon sort of that strength and weakness. What can you do better? If it's customer service and you want to improve it, you can say, well, I'm going to have a dedicated employee sitting by the phone to answer these questions so that I have good turnaround and have good customer service. And how are you going to do this differently than competitors? So really write out what your competitors are doing now, so you have a comparison side by side of how you can beat them at their own game and how you improve on their service. And then threats. This isn't so necessarily a negative point, but you want to think about, if I was in my competitor's shoes, what can they do to improve? Now, your competitors might not necessarily do this, but it's nice to keep in the back of your head what to predict and what to plan ahead for in case they do that. So the next one you're going to look at is best customer. So there's two basic types of businesses. You can look at business to customer. So when you're thinking about this, if I'm delivering my online clothing store, I probably want to target, let's say, women between the ages of 28 to 39. What are the lifestyles? What are their values? They're avid hikers that like to enjoy traveling. That's the market that I'm going to target. So this could be within the Winnipeg, Brandon, Neequa area to start. Or you can do sort of business to business, where you're targeting athletic stores doing wholesale businesses. So you might say, well, I'm looking for businesses with sales of 300K to 800K yearly. That's my target market. I'm going to go for that. So that might be sort of the Westman area or the Winnipeg metropolitan area as well to start. So just keep that in mind as you're building your business plan. So when you're building your customer segment, as you're developing your product, as you're figuring out who you're going to cater to, you really want to look at your potential customers. So when you start your business, you already have in mind who you're going to target, because there's a problem that you want to take advantage of and solve it, or you've seen an opportunity. So that is where you want to start with. So focus on those individuals. Again, build your brand, build your community, and then expand from there. When you're looking at value proposition, you really want to be very specific. So for my service, for my product, do I reduce the pain or minimize the risk for some of my customers? If you're going to offer a product, other than running, better quality, better service, better experience, it's more innovative. Be specific about where you stand out. Is your product higher quality? Is it healthier for individuals? Is it friendlier? Is it faster service? As an experience, is it easier to navigate? Is it, for an innovative side, is it quicker transaction? Is it, cheaper? So, if it saves time, if it saves money, really be explicit in your business plan so that your investors or even yourself as an individual know exactly where you compare to your competitors. And also cater to your particular market segment as you expand. So when you go into that value proposition, you want to think about sort of which value proposition should you focus on. The aim is to, what is the easiest way for me to get a quick sale, to build a brand? That should be the target you want to start with. So when you go into the SMART goals, you might say, well, I want to use Instagram to market to my customers. That's great. But from the SMART perspective, you want to have time-based, attainable, and measurable outcomes. So you might say, I'm going to spend 2 hours a week, $30 on Instagram ads, to generate 5 to 10 leads. 20% of those leads will convert to customers through good customer service and engagement. That way you can sort of foresee what to expect and how to build your customer segment. And for those that have businesses that have been in operation for several months now, take that data into consideration and use that as a projection for the next few months up to a year to really understand exactly what your numbers are going to be as you grow. So before I go into sort of what Futurpreneur does, just keep in mind that as you're going through, when you're building the business plan, cash flow, really have like a 2 to 5 year plan in mind. So with our cash flow template and business plan, that's the most basic pieces of documentation you will need to go to either a commercial bank, to a financial lender to get that first initial seed funding. So there's a lot of resources in Manitoba to help entrepreneurs get started, so really keep that in mind. So Futurpreneur is just one of the different organizations in Manitoba to support entrepreneurs. So we're Canada's only national nonprofit that provides funding, mentoring, and business resources for entrepreneurs aged 18 to 39. Our purpose really is to drive an inclusive Canadian prosperity by fueling the success of young entrepreneurs and enterprises. So our mission is to provide the early stage financing, the mentorship, and resources to help entrepreneurs between age 18 to 39 to launch successful businesses which contribute to a stable and sustainable economic development within Canada. So we offer several programs. So for our startup program, we offer a loan up to $60,000 plus 2 years of free mentorship to help entrepreneurs get started. We also have dedicated programs for the Indigenous and Black communities because we understand that there are barriers to entry as well as additional resources and support that we can provide. And so we have teams with lived experience to really service those communities and offer them the resources that they need to get started. We also offer a side hustle program, which is for those that are working full-time and you want to start a side business such as a craft store or a home bakery, for example. You can get a loan of up to $15,000 as well as mentorship for 2 years. And we recently added a newcomers program for those that are new to Canada. So as long as you're a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, you would also have access to our newcomers program as well. And so Futurpreneur has been in business for over 25 years. So previously we were known as the Canadian Youth Business Foundation. So since then, we've helped 16,000 entrepreneurs across Canada, coast to coast to coast, to get started with their business. We've helped support 13,000 business launches since then, which equates to about $186 million in financing. 44% of our businesses are women-led, 17% have Black founders, and 5% have Indigenous founders. So really taking that step to really improve our offerings and to be more inclusive to the Canadian communities, as well as to take into consideration sort of the barriers to newcomers of starting their businesses. And so when we did a survey, we found that 74% of our entrepreneurs felt that the Futurpreneur program had a positive impact on their business. 90% felt that they were ready for the business when they went through the Futurpreneur program. And so on average, each of our businesses creates about 5.4 jobs, so that's a great number. And we also have a great community of mentors, community partners, and team members that really help support this and drive this mission forward. And so how our process works is, once you register for an account, you would then make an application. So early on in the stages, you would speak with our business development managers to better understand the process and to help you refine your business plan and cash flow. From there, you submit your application. And then once you get approved, we hand match you with a mentor to help you really fill in any of your business needs. For example, you have, let's say I need some help with marketing or accounting, for example. We would match you with a mentor that has that services, that skill set to help you grow. And then finally, once you have your mentor match, you get your funds dispersed. Manitoba really has a rich ecosystem, and I want to reiterate that these are some of our partners in the ecosystem to help provide support, infrastructure, resources. And I highly encourage you to really speak with our community partners here. We have Paul, we have Christine, we have Whitney from World Trade Center, Women's Enterprise Center, as well as North Ford, respectively. They'd be happy to give you some more information about their programs and offerings to really help support. One thing to note for the World Trade Center is that they're a fantastic service for getting secondary market research to really help you better understand the economic landscape of your business as well as the market that you're in. And it's a great service that I recommend to all the entrepreneurs that come through our program. Excuse me. Lastly, we also have the Farm Credit Canada. So they basically handle any businesses that goes from farm to plate. So if anyone's interested in sort of starting their own farming business or processing any sort of crops or whatnot, they're your best bet to go for some financial lending as well. So with that, if you want to find some more information, just look up Futurpreneur, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Go ahead.
Are you an entrepreneur as well?
Yes, I am. So my background is actually in science. So I started sort of doing some basic medical research, and then I got into entrepreneurship when I moved to Winnipeg 5 years ago. And so 5 years ago, a few friends of mine got together, and we had this idea of filling a void in the biomedical space where we found that information was not being translated quick enough for people to really have a positive impact with that information in the medical field. So our goal really is to sort of take a subset of the medical data that's available and making it easier to accessible, make it easier to understand for those that actually need it. So hopefully we have a positive impact on the research side, as well as the translation from the research to the clinic side to help people.